Welcome to Real Talk with Pam, the show where authenticity meets conversation and where we turn lived experiences into shared and learning ones. Today, I have the honor of speaking with an incredible woman whose name truly reflects who she is. Her name is Joy Anusim-Emeghara. Joy is a passionate public relations practitioner, a dedicated diversity and inclusion advocate, and an entrepreneur who spreads love through her gift curating business, Joyful Things. Beyond her professional achievement, Joy is a storyteller, a speaker, and the author of The Gift of Joy, a book that teaches us how to cultivate joy in every aspect of our lives. She has spent years inspiring people with her real life experiences, both the highs and lows, showing us that joy is not just a feeling, but a choice we make every day. Let's dive right in. Hi, Joy. Welcome to Real Talk with Pam. It's amazing to have you here.
Thank you. It's been so many years.
I know. I know that our parents used to live on the same street. So I remember a mutual friend of ours, Motun, saying, "Oh, she gave me your book as a gift." And I was like, I know that name. And it's amazing how we have reconnected through that.
Amazing.
Amazing.
When she told me, I was like, this world is just so
I
small,
know.
Yeah.
I thought I must get you on the show. So I've read this book. I'm absolutely amazed and overjoyed that you got to share your story in this book called The Gift of Joy.
Thank you.
The reason I love it so much is that it's an easy read, but it has so many life nuggets, and you sort of hit on many different themes in the book. So, what I thought I'd do today is just share some excerpts of the book that I felt connected with, and we can talk about that if you don't mind.
That's fine.
Okay, so first of all, what inspired you to write this book, The Gifts of Joy? And I know you have a company called Joyful Things.
So I realized early that my parents didn't make a mistake giving me the name Joy. So I'll hear from people, how come you're always so joyful? Everything about you is joy, joy, joy. And then it seemed like it was my brand, joy. And when I decided to write a book, so I started from joyful, I had several names for the book, joyful, joyful things. Okay, then there was a little deviation, abused but not destroyed. All kinds of things came to mind, and there's just something, life is what we make of it. I personally have chosen to stay on the side of joy because there's so much joy in the world, and even in the midst of the challenges that we go through, it is how you turn those challenges to strengths that matter. So I would say that with every experience I've had in life, I think I've seen a lot to know that, there's always that element of joy in these experiences. So initially, it was several names, and then I decided, why not the gift of joy? Right. Because joy, God has freely given it to us all, but if you must realize that it's within you, and then do all you can to ensure that you're living it, you're experiencing it, you're spreading it, and all of it. Yeah.
Fantastic. So, you talk about the gift of joy, and you went through an experience, a very harrowing experience when you were in University of Calabar, and it could have shattered you. It could have led you to a totally different path than you are now. But like you said, you chose to view life differently, joyfully. But so I would like to read this excerpt, and I'd like you to talk about that experience. I know it's a difficult experience, but I believe that you've been healed from it. But talk about it in the sense of what made you courageous after that, and what kept it from destroying you. And particularly what I loved was the fact that you were open enough to speak to your parents about it in a society where there's a lot of shame, there's a lot of blame. And, for our age bracket, we're not usually that open with our parents. So I'm going to read Shattered Innocence is this chapter 2. It says, 3 of them gang raped me. They were like beasts. IB kept saying to me, don't argue with these people, or they will kill you here. Just cooperate. Though he seemed to be speaking for me, he also had his turn. A car approached while they were at it, and I tried to scream. Immediately, one of them placed his leg over my mouth to stop me. When the rapists were done, I felt violated, shattered, and dead inside. These brutes were going to abandon me here, covered in my blood. This was, um, I had to beg them to take me to a familiar place so I could find my way home. They grudgingly took me back to town and stopped at a pharmacy to try and get me what I later learned was a morning after pill. This was another source of concern for me. I didn't trust them. They were evil.
Okay, so before this chapter, I talked about joyful beginnings, and that's because I grew up in a home filled with love. So much love around, so much love between siblings, so much love from our parents. There was just so much love, and we were so protected, and I didn't know any other thing aside what I was experiencing at home. So my parents raised us in such a way that, we were free to speak to them about everything. My father had a way with me, particularly. I was that child who would go to daddy and say, Daddy, I want this. They said I was quiet as a younger kid, but with my father, I could say anything. With my mom, I didn't, there was no fear. That was the kind of environment I grew up in. We were free to speak our minds to our parents respectfully, but I was a bit daring, So I would go into my father's room and he says, What is it again, Chichi? What is it this time? I'm like, Daddy, if you don't, you have to give me the money I want, the exact amount. If you don't give it to me, I don't. And he'd be like, okay. So he even struggled to say no to me.
Right.
I found out much later. And so that was the kind of family, that was kind of upbringing I had. And then thankfully, my parents exposed us to church, Sunday school, hearing the word of God early in life. And then you come home and there's fellowship afterwards. And then, it continued like that until it was time to go to school. And so when I had that ordeal, I didn't know who else to run to but my parents.
Right.
It was hard because, I thought about it. I'm like, this is so terrible. How do I go tell my parents this kind of thing? But I had no option at the time. So I spoke to them, and their reaction was, till today, I remember it was my father. He couldn't continue the conversation with me and just handed the phone over to my mom, who said to me, you have to come home. You have to come home, And before then, I'd gone to the school authorities. I'd tried to take up the case with a lawyer, as friends around had advised, and it wasn't going anywhere. If anything, the school authorities said to me that I was lucky that I wasn't killed, that the week before, a girl like me had been raped and she was killed. They found her dead body. And so I was like, these people have nothing for me. So I have nothing. I have no business in this place. I just have to leave this, environment. And then I went home, and that was where it started. I started to get help. I started to get support, medical, emotionally, and all of that. But it was hard for my parents. They still couldn't have a conversation with me. But they provided the healing environment for me. There was so much love around me. There was encouragement. My siblings didn't know why I had come home, but this love that was evident was in my home carried me that period. And God is not an orchestrator of evil, but if He allows something, He will give you the wherewithal to face whatever it is, deal with the issues, and give you strength to come out of it. So because of the way that healing came for me, I knew that I couldn't have gone through it on my own, that there was that unseen hand helping me along the way. And I kept getting the nudge to write about it. So I started scribbling stuff early enough, So at every point in time, I had jotters. I'm good at journaling. So I would write about it. I could be in school, I could be in class, and I would just get the Rema word or an aha moment. This happened because of this. It was God who led caused this to happen. if you were not listening to that guy, they probably would have killed you. Because somehow, even though I was going through a lot of pain, I found myself still doing all I had to do to come out alive, So I was just scribbling. I know, I had a lot of jottings all over the place. So you would see me at every point in time, I'll have several jotters, writing stuff, all kinds of things. And then as I got older, I had this burden to not leave it with me. I was still talking to people, so you find people come to me to say, I'm going through this, what do you have to say? Or I just had a burden for helping people, encouraging people. And I knew that it was not ordinary. It was a gift that God had given me. Probably because of the experience I had, I was more empathetic. I had a listening ear and all of that. So towards my 50th birthday, I'm like, you've been scribbling and scribbling forever. I actually made an initial attempt to publish. So I put my thoughts together, put the stories together. And as I was having my life experiences, I was still journaling. There was just this pressure to come out with the book.
Right.
And I think it was this word I heard from my pastor, Pastor Paul Adefa. He said to us, you do not profit from a book you haven't written.
Right.
I think he was trying to say that, you have to you can start by writing, and then there might be more coming out of that. Not necessarily material rewards or monetary rewards, but now I see what this book is doing. It's I can't get over it. It's amazing because it's gone to places I've never have been able to go to, or my voice would never have been able to get to. But with the book, it's like a conversation starter. And I hear people come to tell me things like, I was struggling with unforgiveness until I read your book, and they're like, what can be worse than this?
Right.
So all of that. So I just thought, okay, it was the right time to now come out with this book, share my own lessons, because I feel that there's a whole lot to share.
Yeah.
So that was what
Amazing.
made me come out with this.
Amazing.
Yeah. Thank you.
So let's move on. So I want to talk about courage and conviction. So in this chapter 3 talks about progressing through setbacks. So you moved away from University of Calabar, you went to University of Jos. So to move on with your life, forget about the past, trying to forget about the past, and you almost encountered the same thing again. So here in page 34, you talked about how you had sort of lost your conviction about schoolwork and you were losing your way and you needed to refocus and you were behind in your work, in your schoolwork. And then you talked about here, it says, even in the midst of that, there was a proverbial predator that preyed on the weak and vulnerable. A lecturer wanted to have sex with me. He told me that I needed to use what I had to get what I wanted. At this point, my loathing for oppressors was palpable. I wasn't ready to succumb or tolerate anything that had the faintest hint of oppression. Calling his bluff, I dared him to do his worst. My grades had slipped so far that I could not possibly graduate with my class. I had failed so many courses that his threat was meaningless. I already had a fairly long list of courses to retake. When he failed me, I simply added his course to the bottom of my list. I love that. I love the fact that, here you were, faced another test. And having been through a harrowing situation in your past in University of Calabar, you had another test. And a lot of people might have crumbled over because rape is really can be devastating, not just to your body, but to your mind. And you could have succumbed and said, well, and not felt worthy, but you had the conviction and courage. Where do you think that came from?
Okay, so it wasn't always like that.
Right.
I remember when I came out of University of Calabar, I felt that life wasn't worth living, and that the very essence of my being had been forcefully taken away from me. I just felt some feeling of worthlessness, but I think that the fact that I came back to love in my home, and I continue to go to church, I continue to hear the word of God, without even knowing, because I did. If you ask me where it came from, I'll tell you. But there was just this inner strength from within. My son made a joke out of this, and he said to me, "Mommy, I like the fact that you didn't even care that the lecturer was threatening you. You had become a bado." So I looked at him. I'm like, "Where is that coming from?" He said, "I like that. How he thought he could just come and threaten you and then get you going down again." But somehow I just knew that, like the worst had happened. What do you want to do to me? What is new under the sun? And so I put in the book, I had this, even till now, I don't like to see people oppressed.
So,
I just try to contain it, and I try to be objective about my involvement, but I can't stand it, because I'm like, you're doing it because you think that they don't have anyone speaking up for them, or you think they don't have the strength to come up on their own, So I refused that he was going to get what he wanted from me, since he had put it like that. I remember very well where I was, how he said it to me, and how I reacted. I walked away and was like, "You're walking away from me," and I'm like, what do you want to do? Already I felt I might have to stay back another year to retake these courses, but so hearing him say that to me wasn't going to deter me, wasn't going to make me succumb to his threats and pressures coming from him. It was just this inner strength I had started to build over time, knowing that, daddy is not there, mom is not there. If much as you felt that, they could have been there in Unical to protect you, you're now on your own. And maybe because I also had my brother in school. I had my brother, I had cousins, I had relatives, I had this family friends I was living with who provided me some kind of, gave me some kind of protection, It just, being surrounded by family and friends you knew had your back also contributed. And the fact that this Joy had grown, was growing and coming out of where she was before, that low place and that place of low self-worth, I was determined not to let the experiences I had define me. So you could say that was what it was, this inner conviction that we all must have, as we go through life. We won't let what people throw at us deter us from pushing ahead or standing our grounds when the occasion calls for it.
Absolutely. That's great. So I'd like you to just say a word for women who are, we're of that age where our kids are either getting ready to go to university or are in university, who might encounter such. What would you say to them in terms of having that resilience to not be afraid to speak up for themselves?
If you don't speak up, no one will hear you. I always tell my children, you have people around you. No man is an island. You are not in this world to do life alone. So when you have issues that you feel are overwhelming or you are not able to deal with them on your own, first of all, I tell my children, run to mommy and daddy. If you're not able to run to mommy and daddy, you have Auntie Adana, you have Uncle Charles, you have Uncle Obina, you have Auntie Chika, you have, you have your parents' siblings, you have daddy's siblings all around you, Auntie Ada, Auntie Julie, Uncle Ikenna, they're all there. These are a network of family blood relation that you have. It shouldn't be too hard for you to reach out to any one of us, but outside of all of this, you have to tell yourself that no one is permitted to intimidate you if you do not allow it, So I tell because we won't always be with our children all the time. I remember a friend of mine saying to me, "Why would you let your children take Uber?" And I'm like, this girl is 18. This boy is 13, 14. What were you doing when you were their age? I remember I used to go from Surulere to Egbeda. Sometimes my father will allow the driver to take me, but I was that child who would go visit friends at the outskirts of Lagos, because I wanted to just, continue the relationship from school. I was in a boarding house. So anytime we came home, I would want to connect with my friends, and women, you could say life was easier then, life was safer, and things like that. But these children will go out there. So we cannot protect them too much. And I say to my friends, there comes a time in life when you know that, what? You've done your best. You see these children, they are God's children.
Yes.
He will take care of them.
Yes.
And they'll be fine. Even with the things that they go through, there's this word of God that continues to I hold on to, and that God causes all things to work together for their good. So even when they go through experiences, maybe some of them will not be too good, they will learn from them, and they'll get better for it. Everyone has a role they have come into this world to play.
Sure.
And I don't think God created anyone and said, your own will be bad, 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 bad until I call you home. I don't believe that. So
Sure.
we will do our best, but at some point we have to let them go to build the resilience on their own. Learning from the experiences of people around them. In my own case, my children have a lot to learn from me. This book has become a conversation starter, and from this they're asking other questions. I had my reservations about coming up with this because of my children, because I'm like, how will they react to this? But today I'm grateful that I heeded the call to write it.
Yes.
Because I see what it's doing in their lives. I see what it's doing for them. I see how they even, amongst their friends, they'll call their names and like, your mom wrote about this in her book. What do you have to say about it? How do you feel about it? And they're talking on their own. They come back to tell me.
Yes.
And I'm grateful. Because they had their reservations. Mommy, are you sure? It's about you. It's your story. So if you're okay with it, we're okay with it. And I'm like, are you sure? Are you okay with me talking about it on TV? Like I knew it would come to that, and they reassured me. So before I even had the conversation with them, God had gone ahead of me.
Sure.
To just make it all okay.
That's
so it was good. It was good that, the conversation happened before I decided to come out with the book.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
And I always say how it's so important to be open. That's why I call the show the Real Talk with Pam, being authentic, because we underestimate the power of openness and how you can help that one person. Even if it's one person you help, it makes a huge difference.
Sure.
So moving on swiftly, I want to touch on, like I said, you go through so many life nuggets in this book.
Yeah.
We could be here forever. But so I love this quote that you talked about. It's on diligence, because I think that we live in a world today where there's so much out there, so much information. There is the internet, social media, Instagram, and you can be living in your own mind, I call it the alternate reality, living in your own mind of how you think the world is. And we live in a world of instant gratification. We want things now, and we don't want to work for it necessarily. So you talk in this book about a period where you were looking, I think you were a youth copper, you had just been posted looking for work, and you were diligent at trying to made sure you got posted to this particular company and work for them. But you use a quote from Benjamin Disraeli, the former first Prime Minister of the United Kingdom. He said, "Diligence is the mother of good fortune. Sometimes you may work without expectation of reward. You work hard because of who you are and the values you embody. Over time, I realized that there's always a reward somehow, somewhere, even though it may be late in coming, because your actions in time are seeds. So do not get tired of doing good or living right, even in the face of mockery." I love that.
True. Okay, so I'll even start with the experience I had after I had started working with this company. And I would always go to work every day, unlike the other coppers.
Right.
So I was busy. So there was no way I could leave work and then stay home because I thought it was my off day. If I had work to do and there was nothing I was doing at home, I'll go into the office. And I hear them tell me, don't forget in a copper you be. You don't spoil work for us. So we don't come to work every day. You're always here. I don't know what you're doing, But they're like, and then you hear other people say, I know she's busy, or maybe that's why she's, So they're having the conversation on their own, and I'm looking at them and I'm laughing. I was busy. So I had to go into the office almost every day doing what I had been given to do.
Right.
And when it was now time for me to leave the company, it was the superintendent of the Eastern operations at the time that walked up to me to say to me, Joy, when do you finish youth service? I was shocked because I'm like, this is your girl of this whole place, And he walked up to me and I'm like, I told him, he now said that you have worked really hard and we will hate to see a valued employee go. So we will do all we can to ensure that we retain you. That was how that employment came. Even though I started off as a contract staff, but the employment came like on a platter of gold because I had served diligently for months while my friends were taking advantage of their off days, playing around, making mockery of me, Vasabi Kopa, calling me names, but I was not deterred. And again, I remembered how we got in. It didn't happen immediately. So we would always report at the gate of this office. And every day they will come, they will bounce us, we'll go home. We started off like 6 of us. And then all of a sudden, we were only 3 remaining. Until one day, after a week, they called us into the company. That, okay, we're ready. You people are lucky today. We're ready to see you. And then we had an initial interview. And that was it. Another round of interview. And we were called in to start work. Right. Imagine we were not going every day. Imagine we didn't. I, for one, said, you know what? You see this office, I will enter there, Right. I don't know what it was that was pushing me, but I knew that I would even give it my best shot. Sure. I would even push myself. Sure. We were standing out in the sun. We didn't have any shade at the time, but I knew that I wanted something. And I had come to realize that if you want something, then you have to go for it. Yes. It would not always be on a platter of gold. And I'll take it back to my upbringing. My parents they took care of us. We didn't lack anything. But I just felt that, my parents tried to allow sometimes, like I'll be on a holiday and I'll have vacation jobs. Sometimes I'll go work with my father for some pay. Other times it'll be with other companies. So I had built that, what do I call it now? That diligent spirit, that hardworking spirit, Maybe that was what helped. We can't always have our parents spoon feed us. Sure. I try not to do that for my children now. So when they're on holidays, I also do the same thing. Go try and see how the work environment is. You will learn to wake up even when you're reluctant. The alarm bells will ring and you have to get up. You won't always have mommy and daddy, pushing, protecting you and providing every single thing that you need. Sometimes they want certain things. I'm like, take your money, the money they've paid you, use your money, right. Things like that. Because I'm like, already they're so sheltered. Yes. We just have to try to expose them to some realities about life that could help them. You never know how far they'll go with those.
Amazing. So we'll take a quick break right now. We'll come back, continue this amazing, insightful conversation with Joy. Be right back. Welcome back to Real Talk with Pam. We've been talking to Joy today about her wonderful book called The Gift of Joy, the many nuggets of life that she's learned in this book. It's a great read, so I encourage everyone to go get it. So right now, Joy, I want to talk to you about forgiveness. It's quite a big one. You went through such a harrowing experience, and so many people in life walk about with what I call bullet wounds, that are lodged, that have not been extracted. And it can really affect the way we view life, the way we do life, and really stop us from getting to our full potential. So I'm just going to read this part of the book where I love what you said here about forgiveness. It says, even after marriage, I was still carrying some of the weight of that ugly incident at Unical. Sometimes I would remember those memories and end up in tears. This usually happened whenever I watched a movie or read a story with a theme around rape. Yes, I was happily married and dearly loved, but those feelings of sadness still had the power to hit me hard and leave me almost breathless. And then you say here, rape is a crime, and I had every right to seek justice. I realized that it was not my fault, but I had to forgive for my healing to be complete. I never received an apology from the people that hurt me, but I learned to let go.
Okay, so I'll start this part of the conversation by citing a quote by Louis Swade. Says, forgiveness is to set a prisoner free, only to realize that the prisoner was you,
Right.
you know. So if you do not forgive, you'll be holding yourself down,
Yes.
you know, and with all the baggage of unforgiveness. And unforgiveness carries a lot of weight with it, you know, and it could get worse. And before you know it, you're a bitter person, carrying the weight of that experience that you've had everywhere that you go. And then you're labeled as that bitter woman who never smiles, who is very angry. That was not me, even though that was what life had meted me. And, you know, I had every reason not to forgive these people who had violated me. But, you know, I even I would say things like, you know, I look forward to when I'll see these men and I'll look at them and say, look at me. You wanted to kill me, but see me today. You know, God has helped me. I'm thriving. And I realized that it was just wishful thinking. And I didn't even need that experience for anything. So on my own, you know, and as God helped me, because I found God on a deeper level and the joy of the Lord filled me up, there was no place for unforgiveness.
Yeah.
So there was one day I was just going through the whole thing by myself because at this time I didn't have to. I did a bit of therapy after the Unical incident, after I got home, but it didn't do so much for me until I decided that, you know what, this thing is no longer going to have a hold on me, you know. And I said to myself, I will give myself closure. I didn't need anybody to look for these people. I tried to look for them on Facebook.
Right.
At least I remembered one name. So I would search, and the more I searched, the deeper into hopelessness, you know. And I'm like, I don't need this thing. And my husband actually tried to. I had one or two people who tried to fish this man out, but they were nowhere to be found. And I said to myself, I didn't need any of these things. I didn't need to settle scores. I didn't need to see them to tell them anything. I needed to let go of that feeling, you know. And I said to myself, you know what? I won't even talk about this again. You know, aside from writing it down and learning, you know, coming out with my learnings and things like that, I just said to myself, you know, forget about it. Give this closure, you know. And today, I think about it. Sometimes the tears come, but it's tears of joy.
Sure.
That you mean, you know, you're reading this to me, and I'm like, wait, you went through these things like that? You know, it's tears of joy that look at how far God has brought me. See where I am today. Thank God that I don't look like what I've been through.
Yes.
You know, and then as God would have it, I have a loving husband. My children never want to see me frown. They say, Mom is always smiling. So anytime I keep a straight face, because maybe I'm in a pensive mode, I'm thinking some things through. They don't call for laughter or smiles. They're like, Mommy, are you okay? This was even before they read the book. Right. Now it's on a different level. Mommy must never know anything, have anything to do with pain.
Right.
So that was it. And then, you know, this God is a beautiful God. He has a way of making it all up to you. I met a wonderful man who is my husband today. And it's been a beautiful love story. That is not to say we haven't had our fair share of challenges, but you know, when the purpose of the thing is not known, abuse is inevitable.
Right.
Marriage, in my opinion, is honorable. And I know that I have to bring a lot to the table. Sometimes it doesn't work like that for a lot of people. But, you know, my own case was different. And I was determined to make it work. And I wasn't going to let the experience of the past hold me down. And yeah, so that's it. I embraced love on a different level. And I opened my heart out to my in-laws, the people around me, and it's been a good journey so far.
That's great. That's so beautiful because that was my next question. You know, how did you get to find love again? But I think you've answered it. But what I love about what you wrote is, you know, I think that when we look at marriages today, I'm divorced. And if I look back at my marriage, one of the things that broke it down was the lack of communication. And you write in your book, in page 61, it talks about, you said we are not devoid of our share of mountains and valleys, issues that were capable of breaking the marriage, that reared their ugly heads not once, not twice. How we were able to go through them can only be what God does. Open communication helped a lot. We talked through the issues and resolved to commit to each other. Obinna would say to me in local parlance, now me and you for this marriage, we know they go anywhere. Um, and I would say in turn, we will see the head and tail of this thing. We were committed and still are. I love that. That's very beautiful. I would like you to speak to couples who are going through things, and how important do you think communication is in a marriage?
Communication is the bedrock of marriage.
Yeah.
And once you find your spouse who used to be quite chatty, engaging, now decides that, you know what, I've said it all, I'm no longer talking about this thing. Something is definitely going wrong. And that's a red flag. So it is from there that either of the stronger of the two would say, you know what, you used to talk a lot about this. You're no longer saying anything. You're no longer talking. What's going on? Can we talk about it? There always has to be that one person, the stronger of the two. And it wouldn't always be one person. So at a phase, it might be the woman, and another phase, the man. So whoever is doing it at that time should do it so that there is no void.
Sure.
Because once the void is created, other things start to come in. And then the gap is wider. And before you know it, it breaks down irrevocably. So I'd say communication is key. In marriage and any relationship at all, the moment you stop communicating, you're giving room for miscommunication, breakdown of the relationship. So we must keep speaking. We must keep using our voices. We must determine to do the best that we can to stay engaged, so we don't lose what we have built over time.
Sure. And I think what's really important as well is, there's always that saying marriage is 50-50, but I do believe it's 100-100. It's not 50-50. I think that there are days that one person will carry each other more than the others, but to keep giving in any, not just marriage relationship, in relationship in general, because nobody's 100 every day, but you have to bring your A game.
Exactly.
Try to bring your A game every time. Like I said, even in a relationship with your children, whatever relationship that there is. So that's amazing. So moving on swiftly, you're doing really well. Thank you.
Thank you.
I want to talk about advocating for yourself as a woman. Okay. I love this, and I'm going to read it because it is I love the poem that you put in this book on page 74. And then I'm going to read something else. It's says, woman, you are not your age, nor the size of the clothes you wear. You are not your weight or the color of your hair. You are not your name or the dimples in your cheeks. You are all the books you read and all the words you speak. You are your croaky morning voice and the smiles you try to hide. You are the sweetness in your laughter and every tear you've cried. You're the songs you sing so loudly when you know you're all alone. You are the places that you've been to and the ones that you call home. You're the things that you believe in and the people that you love. You are the photos in your bedroom and the future you dream of. You're made of so much beauty, but it seems that you forgot when you decided that you were defined by all the things you are not. And this is by Erin Hansen, which is a beautiful poem.
Beautiful poem. I have to put it in there.
Right. So tell me, what does this poem speak to you about, and what do you want to convey about it to women?
Okay, to start by saying you are enough.
Right.
You do not need anyone to validate you. You are okay just by yourself. You are beautifully and wonderfully made. You are not any different from the next woman, even, or the man, if we're to put it that way. So everything that you are, the way that you are is the way that God had ordained it from the beginning of time. So you don't need your experiences. You don't need the amount of money in your bank account. You don't need your job. You don't need marriage or being married or not being married, having children, not having children to define you. You are enough on your own as a human being. So if you have that mentality, you will just be content, even being alive, because you never know what the next day holds for you. So you have the day. It's called today because it's a gift. It's called the gift of life, the gift of the day. We must always make the best of it because tomorrow is not guaranteed. We all hope
right.
that, oh, it's going to be in hundreds. I was talking to a friend of mine who said her aunt passed at 95. Some people will get that lucky and get to that age, but some of us may not. I'm believing for long life, but then next day is not guaranteed. So we can't spend valuable time waiting for the best moment to live life. So the message for the woman out there, you know, is to live life. Make the best of it. Make the best of whatever situation that you find yourself in or whatever life presents. Always keep pushing forward to get to be the best of who you can be, and trust the process, and trust that whatever you desire by the special grace of God, as long as it's God's will for you, will come to you.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Okay, we're almost done.
Yeah.
All right. I want to talk about mindset.
Yeah.
You're right in page 94. And this is very funny. I find so you had been through obviously so many experiences in your life, but this particular one, you went for a medical procedure, a colonoscopy, which they perforated part of your
Large
intestines.
intestine.
We won't even talk about that, but that's scary. But I know that at that point you were feeling a little bit despondent,
Not a
and
little bit.
a lot despondent. But you you said, then I felt disappointed, let down, afraid, and attacked. Was I under siege? Was somebody after me? I asked God, why is it always me? Why do I always have these life-changing experiences? Naturally, that feeling of foreboding, the sense of being haunted by the diabolical, began to set in. Perhaps I should be more discreet about my life. I thought, in line with the popular view, um, as they say, your village people were doing you. And then one day, while recuperating, the Holy Spirit said to you, the moment you stop your expressions of joy, that's when you'll be finished. The moment you stop being you, that's the end of you. That solved the problem. So tell us about that shift of the mind.
So that colonoscopy gone wrong experience was horrible
Right.
because that was one experience that ate at my core. I found myself sinking into a place that I'd never been before. Not even when I had that experience when I was 17.
Oh, wow.
Yes, because that one was the first time of the series of, unfortunate incidents, so it was all new to me and I was just wondering. I was still trying to find myself, but at this point I'd been through a lot. And then I got here again and I'm like, what's going on here? And I found that I was struggling to stay alive, and I knew that it was a different kind of feeling and I knew I needed help. And so I went to see a therapist during the course of my treatment. Seeing a therapist was, part of it. And I walked into her office and she said to me, Joy, when they said you were coming to see me, I was happy because I felt it would be easier to talk to you. I know you. You're a joyful person. You're a strong woman. So it would be a walk in the park having this discussion with you. And then she said to me, it's easy for us to treat you, the symptoms of the surgery, you're feeling pain here, we can give you paracetamol, you get well. But where you're going will be more difficult to treat because you are the only one who can tell us how you're feeling. We may not be able to, we can make our diagnosis, but it may be a bit difficult because we can't really tell where you are in your mind. And I know you can do it. I need you to move away from where you are. I don't need you in this place. It's not for you. So that was all I needed. So I got home and I said to myself, enough is enough. Enough is enough. Joy, you have brooded for so long. You've been unhappy. The spark in my eyes were gone. I had friends tell me, you're getting better, but there's something in your eyes.
Right.
I knew what I was feeling, so I knew what they were saying, and I said, you know what? I will just let it go. And then I heard, I was feeding myself with the right words, uplifting music, and, getting the right people to speak to me. Some people will come and they're making matters worse. I knew those ones. I knew those voices I didn't want to hear, even in my pain. And then I heard one preacher say to us that the pain of your past cannot be in the same place with the future that you hope for. So you had to let go of your trauma so that you can give your future a chance. That was the one word I held on to, and I said, you know what, Joy, keep going. Don't be too hard on yourself. Just take one day at a time, because the pain was more mental for me.
Right.
Because I was asking myself all those questions and nobody could help me with. So I said to myself, your parents will love you. Your husband is giving you all the attention. Your children are there. Your mother flew in all the way. Your siblings are all over the place. Your friends are coming. Your home is like a mecca of sorts. They are bringing all kinds of things for you. It's a thing of joy. People are around you, but you are not moving from where you are in your mind.
Right.
So I knew that nobody was going to do that for me. These things helped to lift my spirit, but then there had to be that mindset shift. And then I took up the challenge and I say, you know what, Joy? You have to make sense of this life.
Yes.
There's a whole lot ahead of you. You've done it before. So the experiences of the past even helped to strengthen me the more. And I said to myself, you have seen God at work. He's not about to leave you. He doesn't do half measures. He will start something with you and he will finish it. And I kept hearing that voice, so I went back to that experience, it was like a battle of the mind. This pain is going to kill you. You think you'll come out of it? You won't make it. This is the kind of pain that kills. I heard that voice like 4 times.
Right.
But there was that battle of the mind. I said, no, now this cannot be my end. What will happen to my family? What will happen to my children? They are just getting into schools. I was just saying all of that. And then I heard that still voice. Don't worry, I'm with you.
Sure.
I'm with you. This cannot be the end. So it depends on what you want to listen to. Then I heard the voices telling me, oh no, this is terrible. How can this be happening to you? So I decided to stay with the words that, that would help me.
Yes.
I amplified those voices in my head. And before I knew it, I remembered that experience. I brought it back to the healing process. And before I knew it, I was getting better. I was smiling a lot more. And then according to them, the spark was coming back, and I just continued my, even while I was in the hospital, the nurses would tell me, I've not seen anyone who went through pain with so much joy on their faces and things like some days were better than others.
Sure.
Sometimes the nurses will come to my room and I'll chase them out. I don't want to see anybody.
Right.
And they will tell me, but you're not praying today. So they knew, they observed some areas of strength. They knew I liked to pray. They knew I liked uplifting music. So they were now the ones telling me, you're not praying.
Right.
You're not listening to music. You're not doing this. So you have to be able to define yourself.
That's right. And be intentional
Be intentional about
yes.
what you do. That healing process was very intentional. I could not have. The doctors gave me 1 year within which I'll get back on my feet. But by the 3rd month, I was strong. I could do things I couldn't do before. Maybe not as well. It took time, but by the 3rd month, I was already on my feet.
Sure.
So yeah, that's it.
Amazing. I always say to people, one of the things I cover myself in prayer with and my family is, the Bible talks about, to have a sound mind.
Yeah.
And I think that is so important, that our minds are regulated. You have to train your mind to think positive thoughts, to think godly thoughts.
Yeah.
The mind is a muscle, just like your arms. You have to train your mind to think positive thoughts, because the Bible does say the devil comes to kill, steal, and destroy. And, when I see your light, no wonder you've gone through so many experiences, because that's a test. And It's incredible to know that you've come through it. So just rounding up, I just wanted to read page 101. You talk about choose life. You know, you say here that experiences of pain can reveal your inner strength such that you are even amazed at yourself and how you dealt with it without being cajoled by external parties. Of course, loved ones and people who mean well will offer to help you, but ultimately the choice is yours to die or not to die, to sink or to swim. Each day we wake up is truly a gift. And I love that. So, just some final thoughts about what we've talked about today and about choosing life.
Mhm. So, hey, I'd like to say that, like I said at some point during the conversation, life is a gift. But you must choose what you want to make of your life, and I would say on the other side of joy is not where you want to be. That doesn't have good stuff in store for you. There's bitterness on that side, there's regret, there's pain, there's agony, there's disappointment, there's depression. You don't want to be there because they don't do anything for you. Rather, they kill you, they steal from you. And eventually, if you're not careful, they will destroy you. Those things, those negative thoughts that you're amplifying in your head, and before you know it, you're manifesting them in your actions, in your thoughts, in your relationships with people, So I would say that, the choice is yours, really. We can come sit here, try to encourage through this program as much as we want, but you have to make that personal decision to choose life, and to stay connected to the source of life. In my own case, it is God, the Almighty God, and He has never disappointed me, And with that, there's that zest for life. There's that, hope in the anticipated future that you hope for yourself. That expectation that is ahead of you because God has promised us all great and mighty things. But you must be alive to enjoy them. Because if you don't choose life and you find yourself somewhere else, so when God has given you that life, you will not be, like you said, you will not have the soundness of mind, and spirit to even come to that place of enjoyment. So this life is sweet, Don't go the other side, There's a lot of joyful things around you. That's why I named my gift business Joyful Things. There's a whole lot to this life.
Yes.
So you look around you. Is it the friends that you have? Is it the blessings God has given you? Is it the children? Is it husband? Is it your parents that are still alive? Whatever it is, all you just need to do is look around you.
Yes.
You will count your blessings.
And it's not always material.
It's not always material.
In fact, it should not be material. Yeah.
Those things shouldn't define happiness or joy for you. It is freely given.
Yes.
But you must find it. And it's within you.
Yes.
You must work on it.
Yes. So thank you so much, Joy.
Thank you so much.
Finally, where can we find your book?
So my book is now on Amazon. Yes. So and then
downloadable.
Yes.
Is it downloadable? Yes. Okay, great.
And then it's on the bookshelves in some stores in Lagos. It's in Ebano.
Okay.
It's I'm talking with Latana, so very soon it will go. It will be there. And you can reach me directly too. My number is in the book.
We'll drop it when the show's out.
Okay.
Yeah. Fantastic. Thank you so much
for
sharing your life with us.
Thank you for the
amazing.
Thank you.
I'd like to thank Joy for sharing her incredible story and wisdom with us today. Her journey is a testament that joy is not just about what happens to us, but about how we choose to respond. Until next time, keep being authentic. I'm Pamela Igbo. Bye for now.